Welcome to Candidates of Liberty, a special series from Lions of Liberty dedicated to spotlighting libertarian candidates across the country. If you enjoy our work, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. Hello and welcome to Candidates of Liberty. This is episode number 3. I am Brian McWilliams, one of the 3 hosts on this new podcast from the Lions of Liberty. And if this is your first episode, basically the impetus of this show is that there are so many great libertarian candidates out there running that we wanted to dedicate a very special show with shorter interviews to talking to some of these people, letting people know what they're up to, that they can get out, get their vote out, and help move our libertarian cause forward. My guest today is going to be Matt Waters, who is running for Senate in Virginia, and I will post all of the links to Matt's information pages, to his videos, as well as where you can go and support him financially at lionsofliberty.com/COL3. All right, so welcome, Matt Waters. Matt, of course, is running for Senate in Virginia. And Matt, so before we get into your actual campaign issues, I want to know a little bit more about you as a man and as a libertarian. How did you come to become the big L man that you are?
Yeah, that's a good question, Brian. I mean, there's a lot of different ways I could answer that question. I could talk about politics. I could talk about elections I've been involved in, backstabbing. I could talk about disappointing, folks who have been nominated, the John McCain's or the Mitt Romneys or the Bob Doles, and I could go on and on and on. Then I could look at the philosophy, which is really what drew me back in. I was I call myself a recovering Republican,
right.
And we are. We continue to hold our nose and we continue to vote for the lesser of the two evils. Mm-hmm. And it got very tiresome to me. And really, I got re-energized when I heard a congressman from Houston, Texas, give a talk in like 2007. That would be Ron Paul. Mm-hmm. And
the best.
It first really, it totally irked me, right? I'm like, well, what is this guy talking about? No war and peace. What are you, we're supposed to be bomb Iran, right? And so, it really kind of rocked me, and it got me angry at first, and it pushed buttons, and I eventually came to really, understand the ideas of liberty and what it meant to be freedom, and it made me feel really uncomfortable because even as a conservative Republican, there's things you want government to do and to control. There's things look. I mean, the two candidates had a debate Tim Kaine and Corey Stewart, my two opponents, had a debate a few weeks ago. And I like to put it this way. We have a $4 trillion budget here in Washington every year, right? $4 trillion. $2 trillion of that's in entitlements that we're not entitled to, according to the U.S. Supreme Court. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, all are going bankrupt 2035, 29, and 28, respectively. Those two candidates on 50% of the budget are absolutely identical. No reform. There's no movement. Yeah. They're going to kick the can down the road. And who's going to pay for it? I'm going to pay for it. My children and grandchildren are going to pay for this. So, and then let's go another step further. Let me throw another $1 trillion where they're exactly identical. Okay, that's military spending. Mm-hmm. They may talk a good game, but at the end of the day, the nearly $1 trillion on military spending and our policing the world, they're exactly the same. Right. So now you're talking, they're exactly the same of $4 trillion every single year. Identical. Mm-hmm. Now, let's go to the last $1 trillion where there might be some wiggle room. Not a whole lot. We saw this with the Trump budget that just passed, several months ago. Mm-hmm. It's one of the biggest bloated budgets that were. I honestly believe that Hillary Clinton would have passed a smaller budget. But these are the same Republicans that fought for a balanced budget under Obama. They fought for a debt ceiling stoppage under Obama, and they were willing to shut the government down under Obama, but under President Trump, all that's gone.
Right.
So,
they won't even consider Rand Paul's proposals to try to rein it in. I don't know if you saw any of that as well. Where
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very frustrating.
So I mean, look. At the end of the day, I mean, what George Wallace said back in '68, and Ralph Nader said when he ran for president, quoting George Wallace, and there's not a dime's worth of difference between two major political parties. I heard a report just the other day saying, well, they were sort of challenging that. And I thought, but where? Tell me where. It's specifically where that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I mean, they're Medicaid expansion, single payer, that came right out of the Heritage Foundation. It came out of Mitt Romney. Look, that's how we got to Obamacare. It started with the Republicans. And right now, Marco Rubio is looking at expanding Social Security by giving early parental leave benefits. I mean, this is insanity. This is what the Republican Party is doing. And so yeah, how did I'm all over the place, but you can kind of get
that's all right. Well, no, I mean, and you're on a good topic as well, because we're talking about, a poll just came out basically saying that 70% of Americans are in favor of Medicare for all, which is, $32 trillion price tag. So you do wonder if both of these sides are agreeing to continue to fund this and to continue to play to the broader base. I guess you're seeing no difference between them. So let's talk a little bit more about, why. So we're getting into why you ran for office, and then tell me a little bit about your opponents. Obviously, Tim Kaine, we know as Hillary's lapdog during her campaigning days. Tell me about your opponents. I know you're trying to make a push to get involved in the debates. I saw that you were ostracized from the most recent one. So tell me a little bit about the tactics you're using and how it's going, and then also I'm interested to hear what progress has been made on the debate front. If you're seeing any crumbling of the wall keeping you out.
Yeah, I don't know that, boy, a lot of questions there, Brian. So just stay on me on this. But, I'd say a couple of things. One, not a lot of movement on the debate. We're doing some activism with the AARP debate that's going to be broadcast on PBS television. By the way, both are taxpayer funded. ARP to the tune of $600 million a year, PBS $500 million a year. And they're excluding a candidate that's actually on the ballot. We think that's unfair. It does a great disservice to the people of Virginia. Most of all, yes, I would happily go to that debate and tell them I want to take away their funding. But the Republicans and Democrats won't do that. Nor will the Republicans and Democrats go and talk about entitlement reforms, which is, again, so sad, because here you get the AARP, representing senior citizens. 50% of the federal budget goes to this. And what are we doing? We're not even going to talk about it. Yeah. I mean, to me, it does such a great disservice to senior citizens as well in that particular debate. Is there movement? Look, this is the first time I've ever run for office, Brian. I have, run as a third party candidate for the first time in my life. I've never run. So it's tough. I mean, as a third party candidate, the barrier, just the entry barrier to get in is tough.
Well, what's your background? Give me a little bit of insight into your background as well, because you said you've been involved in different campaigns over the years and had seen the backstabbing. So is it something where you've been active working in Washington for a long time, so you know a little bit of the ins and outs? Yeah.
So I have been in Washington for, really most of my career. 22 years as a political consultant, fundraiser, development officer. On multiple
so you've got a huge leg up compared to a lot of libertarians that are out there then, because you at least have that background to fall on. Yeah,
that's right. So I get it, but it's hard. I mean, really, as a third party candidate, that's one barrier, right? So you've got that issue. You also have the issue of the organization. We're not as seen as a real political party right now. I mean, if we get to the 10% threshold, Richmond recognizes us. And we don't have to spend, $35,000 just to get on the ballot. That's pretty significant. So we're just an embryonic little party fighting for liberty and trying to keep the other guys honest and waiting for a big break. So,
all right. So tell me a little bit more about your positions in regards to, let's say everything falls into place, which we all obviously want this to happen. Let's say it all comes together. It's a dream season for Matt Waters and you are elected to Senate. What would you do? What are the three things that you would do when you got into office, or that you would attempt to do? Because we all know the roadblocks that people are going to be putting in your way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's two. This campaign. Let me back up and have a 30,000 foot that flyover, right? We have to decide who is in control of us, right? Is it going to be, are we in control of ourselves, or are we going to let Washington do it? The other political parties will talk about they're Santa Claus. They're going to offer single payer. They're going to offer a higher minimum wage or free college or maybe even Bernie's plan on the federal job for everybody, right? I mean, free is not free, right? So the taxpayer works from January 1 to April 18th to just pay federal, state, and local taxes.
Yep.
Now, wait until you get free college and free health care. We're going to be working all of our money. By the way, right now, that's more than we spend on clothing and groceries and housing combined. And we want more free stuff. So money equals freedom, right? The more money we have, the more free we are to do certain things. So my proposal to end the federal income tax entirely, I'm starting.
I love it.
Right? I mean, look, it brings in $1.5 trillion to the Treasury. That means you have to cut $1.5 trillion. People say, well, where are you going to cut? Well, it's like a robber coming to my house. If I stop him, am I concerned where the thief gets his, where he's going to rob the next? No, I don't care. Just don't take my money, right? So there's a principle. I mean, the Libertarians believe that taxation is theft. That's in our party platform. We do believe that. It sounds radical today, but this was something that the founding fathers built into the constitutional system. And until 1913, personal federal income taxes were illegal. You didn't do it. So, I mean, could you imagine? And here's the turn of events. People say, well, how would you pay for it? I said, well, I don't really care how they pay for all that spending. Just don't use my money.
Right.
Principle number one. Principle number two is, could you imagine, Brian, you and I getting about a $12,000 a year pay raise? What would we do with $12,000 extra dollars laying around?
Right. Think about the economic ramifications. Yeah. Entrepreneurial opportunities. Yeah.
Oh, huge. So I think we got to think about it a little differently. But that's out there. I get that. Federal income tax elimination it would be incredibly hard. You have to slash and burn lots of departments and agencies and.
Well, I mean, just reining in the war state, it would go a long way towards it as well. We're talking about the continual state of war and how both parties backing that full-fledged. So, yeah, just eliminating so many of those bases, reining in the amount of involvements we have all over the world with wars that have nothing to do with our general populace. It seems like it would go a long way. So is that something, would war be one of the things that you'd look to take on as well?
Yeah. So here's another thing. Like, so the Libertarians, this is what really captured my imagination and recharged me politically. I was running out of gas and steam and all the rest and disappointed. And, but Ron Paul talked a lot about this. And so have multiple other Libertarians, that we are the party of peace. George Washington, our first Virginian, said in his farewell address, he said, how did he put it? He said, don't, rearrange my views of independence and call it isolationism. Right. Don't conflate the two. They're not the same thing. So, we are, overextended. I mean, again, let's go back to the budget. Let's look at numbers, because that's what senators do, and that's what House members do. We basically are in control of the purse strings. The military budget right now is $700 billion. That's bigger than, you probably know this, Brian, China and Russia, the UK, Germany, France, and Saudi Arabia combined.
Right. And that's not even counting how many off the books operations that are going on as well.
Well, you've got that as well. So is the military, I mean, and are we welfare? Yeah, we are. And then there's all the distractions. I mean, we haven't, we don't declare war anymore. We had a conflict in Korea and lost 45 or 55,000. We had a conflict in Vietnam and lost, these conflicts are awful very costly conflicts. And you look at the end game and think, well, what did we get at the end of this? What was the motivation and what's, was it worth it to sacrifice so many sons and daughters and all the rest? So, and even our excursion right now to end the war on terror, right? Look, terror has been with us since, just after the Garden of Eden and Cain and Abel. It's been here a long, long time. We're not going to end terror, tomorrow. So we have a 15-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's cost us, initially the Pentagon said $1.5 billion. They revised it a few months later to $5.6 trillion. And people say, what's the cost of freedom? Well, Brian, I've got the answer for you. I did the numbers. It's about $18,000 per individual. Now, my family of 7
Which is a great talking point, by the way. That's a great talking point for the campaign.
Well, I mean, look, my family of 7 now is on the hook for over $100,000 for our excursion in Iraq and Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And we're still dropping USA-made bombs on civilians in Yemen right now. It is absolutely preposterous. And to say that what we're doing doesn't have massive ramifications. People wonder why a Yemenis immigrant walks into a New York hotel with a pipe bomb. Do you know what just happened to his family over in Yemen, courtesy of the USA?
Is this his family was blown. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a few years ago. And so he walks in with a pipe bomb. People say, well, how can they hate America? They hate free markets. They hate capitalism. No, what they hate is you just bombed everybody in his village, to oblivion.
Right. And then you saw recently the story that the mainstream media finally covered, which is the U.S. blowing up that school bus. And then I think, finally CNN paid this some attention. MSNBC did one story on it. But yeah, exactly right. You have people in, the concept of blowback, which again, Ron Paul had introduced so prominently in the Giuliani moment.
Right.
It's good to hear you talk about that as well, because it's something where I think so many politicians shy away from putting any blame on America for creating terrorism when, we're definitely a huge component in that.
Well, Brian, and I'll tell you, we had that Las Vegas shooter, 2, 3, 4 months ago, and he's up in a window and he shoots down, 80-something people, kills 80-something people, maims hundreds more. Could you imagine if that were an Iranian government official who rained down bullets? Oh, yeah. And was able to walk away scot-free, and we had no recourse to fight back. We just got obliterated at a country and western festival. No recourse. What do? You might take a pipe bomb over to Iran and walk through the streets or whatever it is, and do something that is in your way, shape, form, some act of vengeance to get retribution for what happened, justice. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, if we want everybody to respect this border in America. We want everybody to respect the borders and the sovereignty of the United States of America. Well, then we ought to think about respecting the sovereignty and borders of about 150 plus countries we're in right now. If the Iranian government was patrolling on the streets of Washington right now, I think we probably have something to say about it.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, and people always, it's funny to be American culture, we glorify these people that go out and get vengeance when they've been wronged. And then we look at exactly what you're saying. We do these things to other countries. And then when they go and get their concept of vengeance on us, we say, oh my God, the terrorists. So, I want to ask you one question here, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll try to keep these fairly short so people can get through them.
Right.
And this is the tricky question, though: is what's one libertarian position or viewpoint that you don't know if you're fully on board with?
Yeah. So, the thing about the Libertarian Party, we are open on a lot of different things. So, take the question of life. I'm a pro-life libertarian. I had a guy just write me say, "How can you be a pro-life libertarian?" And there's a lot of openness on this. Steve Porter, who's running the 11th congressional district up here, is a pro-life libertarian. So I don't think I don't think that's it. I think there's enough of us out there running. And
it's a very it's a complex topic, I think, and that's one that I have a lot of conversation with libertarians about, because it's the rights of the woman versus the rights of the child. When do those rights take over? So it's a complex question for libertarians, and it's tough to find an official position on that, I guess. So
we kind of artfully dodge it,
right? Yeah,
okay? And we're sort of open on it. I honestly don't think we should be, but here, let me get back to your question.
Sure.
Probably the death penalty. I mean, look, they're against the death penalty. I would say no. I think there's cases where the state should enact the death penalty.
Okay, so give me like an example, and then some of the reasoning behind that. For example, what kind of case would you say, okay, this person deserves the death penalty? And then, what's the rationale for coming to that conclusion?
Yeah. So, look, it's a very old, it's built in law for since the country was founded. We've routinely had it. To talk, I think, mostly where we are today on kind of quibbling on that and say that, like the Pope came out and said, hey, no death penalty, I'm not going to do it anymore. Or so you do have religious folks who are against it on moral grounds. But you also have religious folks who are also for it on moral grounds, right? Yeah. Same moral grounds that so you just have this deal. But I can think of a case. Just yesterday, you can read any day in the newspaper, Brian, that there's heinous cases every single day. Mm-hmm. In fact, this question on the life came up with me, the life question, and I said, well, look, one of my arguments back was, look, a man was just sentenced who killed his pregnant wife, not for one murder, but for two. Mm-hmm. How's that possible? Because it's in the books that way. Now, do I think he should get the death penalty? I think he should get the death penalty.
Okay. So for me, a lot of the opposition that I have for myself is just coming from so many cases that you see where people are either falsely tried, they go to death row and they're completely innocent. So for me, there's still so much vagueness insofar as the way the justice system operates, where I have a big qualm with it for that reason, particularly.
Well, I tell you what,
the state having the power to take a life also is a little scary to me. But I can understand people who do see it that way. Right. Yeah.
Libertarians, I mean, the other thing I say, this does speak to one of our core tenets, that we are a rule of law party. If you read, David Boas, what is libertarianism? That's kind of the classic work. He's the president of Cato Institute. He talks about rule of law. He says, one of the things they'll mistake us for is we're libertines. We're not libertines. On the margins of a free society, a lot of, I jokingly say I'm not the pot, prostitution, or porn guy. But on the margin of a free society, some of that stuff goes down. So take the Second Amendment, right? There are a lot of bad things that happen around the Second Amendment. People shoot other people for no good reason, like the Las Vegas guy. Now we come to find out. So does that mean we just take away people's right to defend themselves? No, heavens no, right? But it means that there's going to be a lot of stuff on the margins that happen that we have to deal with. We have to think about creatively getting on top of. So. Right.
Okay, good answer. Okay, one final question for you, and then I want to hear about where people can go and support your campaign, learn more about you.
Sure.
But first question, there's a poster behind you, and I'm very curious as what the poster is. Directly over your shoulder.
Yes. So it's an old war poster. It's actually an original poster from 1942. I think it says something that United Nations fight for freedom. And there's Old Glory there next to the hammer and sickle, fighting together for freedom.
Which ironically is what could have happened in Syria. People they could have combated ISIS together, Russia and the United States, hand in hand.
Well, yeah. So I'm a aficionado of old war propaganda posters.
Oh yeah,
and I have a multiple of them around. So
I love it. No, I like that a lot. It reminds you that the propaganda that the state likes to brainwash its own citizenry with. Good to keep that in mind at all times. So,
well, that's exactly right. I'm glad you see it that way.
Most definitely. Okay, so where can people learn more about you? Where can they find your campaign? Go to support you, etc.
Yeah, sure. So the easiest place is my website, mattwaters.com, mattwaters.com. Go sign up for my newsletter. We send out emails. I will be doing a lot of events coming up. Really, the campaign season really kicks off on after Labor Day, and we have a pretty full schedule. We're going to be up and down the state. People don't know me right now, and things like this, Brian. Thank you for doing this. We'll put this out. Yeah, we will certainly send this out to folks so they can get to know me a little bit. But we're going to be doing, I hope, some kind of edgy things in the next 60 days. Things that the other parties won't do. Because we can do them. So
yeah, most well, I say as a public relations professional in my alter ego career, I would be watching with a curious eye to see what PR stunts you have in mind. So, God bless.
We hope we're not stunts. We really do want to have a serious campaign.
The lingo. Yeah, but I'm interested to see what you guys come up with. So that's exciting, and we'll keep an eye on you, and we keep our audience updated as well. And if anything particularly interesting is coming up, please do reach out as well and let us know so we can say, hey, let's check in with Matt and see what he's doing. And if it's something extra special good, we will definitely talk about it on the show some more.
Great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Most definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. God bless.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Matt. All right. And that'll do it for my interview with Matt Waters. Again, if you'd like to support him, all of those links are at lionsofliberty.com/COL3. And if you enjoyed that podcast, please do check out all of our other shows. Mark Claire does a show on Mondays, which is our flagship Lions of Liberty podcast, where he interviews people that are leaders in the liberty movement. We've got my show, Electric Liberty Land, which looks at comedy, culture, and liberty. That's every Wednesday. And John Odermatt with Felony Fridays, looking at the injustices in the ironically named criminal justice system. And of course, if you really want to support us, you can become a patron of ours. Just go to lionsofliberty.com/support.